Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country. And I want to begin by welcoming to our program tonight all those who are joining us on television on West Coast Berbice, from Mahaika to West Coast Berbice. Welcome. Across the Berbice River, I want to welcome all those who are joining us on the east bank of the Berbice River. I want to also welcome those who are joining us from New Amsterdam and, of course, from the Quarantine Coast stretching from Palmyra all the way to Crabwood Creek. Welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. I also want to welcome our listeners who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Rob Street, Georgetown. Good evening. And last but not least, I want to welcome each and every one of you who are looking at us and joining us on live Facebook right across Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News, and please take this opportunity to press that share button on your Facebook page so that we can multiply the number of persons who are looking at this program and we can engage more and more people in our discussions tonight. So please, I want to take this opportunity to invite your friends, invite your fans, invite your colleagues to join us on Facebook. Press that share button on your Facebook account so that more and more people can join us in tonight's discussion. And I want to begin tonight's discussion on a very sober note. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of myself, the People's Progressive Party, the leadership of the People's Progressive Party, the members and supporters of the People's Progressive Party. I want to speak on their behalf and extend to the family of Comrade Rohit Prasad our deepest condolences. Comrade Rohit Prasad was a stalwart of our party. He joined the movement several decades ago and was one of the most trusted and dedicated lieutenants of Dr. Cherry Jagan and Comrade Jana Jagan, going back, or dating back rather, 5 or 6 decades ago. And it is the sacrifices, it is the hard work of persons like Rohit Prasad that have made it possible for me to be speaking here to you this evening. And the work of comrades and leaders of the past, of the caliber of Rohit Prasad, can never be appreciated. It can never be too much to recognize. These persons have laid the foundation by their sweat, by their hard work, by their sacrifices, by their struggles. They have laid the foundation for what we are enjoying today and what young leaders, if I can still describe myself as that, are enjoying today. Comrade Rohit came through the trenches, as I said, and was one time regional chairman of Region Number 6 and served that region with distinction. He served the party in several capacities over the years and over the decades. He has been ill for quite some time now, but was always mentally alert and always up to date with the political happenings in our country. And I want to take this opportunity to salute Comrade Rohit Prasad and to extend to his family and the relatives and friends my deepest condolences and that of the leadership of the People's Progressive Party. No doubt the party will be making suitable arrangements and gestures with the family in recognition of Comrade Rohit Prasad's contribution to the party and to the struggle for the Guyanese people. He has been an outstanding political activist, an outstanding party worker, and an outstanding party member and leader, and has served with distinction over several decades. And I want to take this opportunity to salute Comrade Rohit and to extend to his family our deepest condolences. I want to take this opportunity also to extend to the family of Mr. Imran Khan my deepest sympathies and that of the People's Progressive Party and, of course, of the government of Guyana. Mr. Imran Khan contracted COVID from the news reports and died at the COVID hospital. Mr. Imran Khan did not take the vaccine. Mr. Imran Khan, as you know, has been information officer under the APNU AFC government, and I believe was operating out of the office of the Prime Minister. He was also an executive member, I think, of the Alliance for Change. I want to take this opportunity to extend to Imran Khan's family, to Imran Khan's party, to Imran Khan's comrades, to his relatives, to his friends, my deepest condolences, my deepest sympathies, and those of our party and, of course, the government of Guyana. I want to also take this opportunity to extend to his wife, Tamara, who I understand is still hospitalized, all my best wishes, and I hope that she enjoys a speedy recovery. I hope that she enjoys a speedy recovery, and I want to assure her parents that my sentiments are with them as they're going through a torrid period. I know that they have lost 2 children not so long ago in a motor vehicular accident along the Soesdijk Highway, and now their daughter Tamara is critically ill with the COVID virus. I hope that every precaution is being taken and that she survives a speedy recovery. So, having said that now, it brings me to the issue of COVID once again. And it is becoming more and more evident that those who are not vaccinated are dying, while there are persons who have been vaccinated and who have died. The numbers are minuscule. The numbers are minuscule when compared to those who are unvaccinated and who are dying. I don't know how much one needs to preach. I don't know how much one needs to advocate. But the statistics are there, and those who wish to turn a blind eye to those statistics and to the reality of what is unfolding before their eyes, well, you do so at your own peril. You do so at your own peril. Mr. Marvin Williams, he is an opposition politician. He was an advocate against the vaccination program. He contracted COVID. He was hospitalized at the COVID hospital. He recovered, and now, to his credit, he is calling upon Guyanese across political divide to take the vaccine. Mr. Imran Khan chose not to take the vaccine. He chose not to take the vaccine. And I hope, I hope that the message is becoming clearer. I hope that the consequence of not taking the vaccine is sinking in because, you know, sometimes when persons die or things happen to persons whom we do not know, we tend not to be able to relate to the reality of the phenomenon, even though it's the death of a person that we are speaking about. So it may not have touched us. It may not have been driven home as a message. The seriousness of not taking the vaccines, unless someone whom we know died as a result. Perhaps now that persons of prominence are dying, in particular, those persons who may have been publicly advocating for others not to take the vaccines, that the issue will become clearer to those who feel that there is some lack of clarity on this matter. I prefer to put it that way because I don't want anyone to accuse me of taking advantage of anyone's plight or to use anyone's tragedy as a platform to advocate a point. But it is serious enough for me to draw attention to the reality of that death so that hopefully, I can use that as a basis to bring greater alertness and greater attention to the dangers and the hazards that stalk this land in relation to those who are refusing to take the vaccines. A word to the wise is worth $1 billion. And that's all I wish to say at this point in time. I am told that Mr. C.N. Sharma, another public figure, another person whom we all know, is in the COVID hospital. I want to take this opportunity to wish him a speedy recovery. I want to take this opportunity to send my best wishes to him and to tell his family that my thoughts are with Mr. Sharma, and I sincerely hope that he recovers from this dastard virus. But again, I draw attention to the fact that another person who is known to us and known to Guyanese across this country has contracted the virus. As I said, hopefully, now that people are seeing that persons whom they have some connection with or whom they know are contracting the virus, they may become a little more careful, they may become a little more concerned, and they may become a little more encouraged as a result to take the vaccine. That is all I intend to do. That is all my intention is when I speak about these persons who have died and who are in the COVID hospital. I wish all of them a speedy recovery. And let me say that in every village in this country, based upon the work done by the Ministry of Health, in every community in Guyana, we have persons who are actively COVID positive. We have persons who are in every single community. In every single community, we have active cases, and not one and two, many. It therefore behoves all of us to ensure that we continue to wear our masks, we continue to sanitize on a regular basis, and we continue to observe and obey every component and every portion of the COVID 19 measures. You ignore those measures, you do so at your own peril. So I thought that I'll begin the program with those important, very sober, and very serious introductory remarks. I want to draw attention as my second topic to a notice in the newspapers, a notice in the Guyana Chronicle dated Saturday, the 25th of September 2021. And it's a notice from the office of the Prime Minister, and it requests proposals for the Amaila Falls hydro project. Recall that we said in our manifesto and in our campaign that we have a full-fledged energy policy that on the one hand we will pursue petroleum production, and that will be a major plank of our economic platform, and that will be a major plank of our energy platform. We also said that we will pursue, explore, and continue to exploit the available opportunities in our country to realize alternative energy and renewable energy sources. We said that we will explore solar, we will continue to invest in solar, we will continue to encourage investments in solar, similarly in wind energy, and also we will continue to exploit the natural opportunities that exist in Guyana for the development and pursuit of hydroelectrical energy and hydropower as a source of our energy platform and as part of our environmental policy. And it is against that backdrop that I want to highlight and recognize that the government, in delivery of that promise, has now published this invitation or request for proposals to resuscitate the Amaila Falls hydro project. Perhaps it's opportune and relevant that I dilate a little on what transpired in relation to this project on the last occasion. I want also to take this opportunity to hold up this newspaper so that all of you see it, because I fear that soon the propaganda wheel will begin to spin and the government will be accused of not acting transparently and not advertising this project publicly, and that the government will be accused of corruption and of a lack of full and frank disclosures. But here it is, a full-page advertisement from the Office of the Prime Minister of Guyana inviting requests for proposals for the Amaila Falls project. The government of Guyana, and I'm reading briefly, is desirous of restarting the Amaila Falls hydro project consistent with the summary scope of work outlined below and project structure last defined in 2015, government decides to start construction by the second half of 2022 with project completion and commissioning by the end of 2025. And then there's a whole long page of information of how the project is being advertised, how it will unfold, the nature of the project, and everything else that would be relevant at this stage. They are all set out here in great details. I bet you my bottom dollar that come 2 months from now, when the interest when people start to submit their information now, as is requested here, and proposals start to come in, and the government start to process those proposals, you will hear that this thing was never advertised, that no one knows about it, and that the government is engaged in cronyism and corruption and giving it to friends and cronies and families. And I'm taking this opportunity to draw to your attention this public advertisement and the depth of materials which are being made public here. So I wanted to put this out there before I go back to how the project died the last time. The last time we had this project, first of all, if the project was completed in the manner designed, then since 2018, I think, we would have been getting electricity from that very project, and based upon all the projections, the cost of electricity produced by this hydro project would have been a quarter or less than what we are paying now. That would have been the consequence and the reality. But APNU AFC used their one-seat majority when we were a minority government and never supported this project. They said that we were borrowing billions of dollars and we were going to bankrupt the country. That was one of the arguments. Nothing further from the truth. We were not borrowing a cent. The government of Guyana was not borrowing a cent. Blackstone, a company, was going to finance this project from their own finances. In fact, they had already secured finances from the IDB, etc., etc. All that the government had to do was to sign an agreement to assure the investor that GPL will buy the power, or if GPL doesn't buy the power, then the government was guaranteeing payment. The government was going to guarantee payment for the electricity if GPL doesn't buy the power from the company. That is all that the government was required to do under the project. And that the government needed a particular thing to take place in the parliament, a certain seal-in of our indebtedness, or what you call a guarantee. We couldn't give that guarantee, that volume of guarantee. We needed parliamentary approval. And because we didn't have a majority, the opposition, who held a majority then, voted the project down. So that was the first point. They said we didn't have enough, the government was going to bankrupt the country. Total lie. I just explained to you what the government commitment was. The second issue they said that we never gave them enough documents. I remember distinctly, I was Attorney General. President Ramotar called them at the office, the APNU AFC, led by Granger, Greenwich, Ramjatan, Nagamutu, I can't remember who else. A whole team, I believe Harman may have been there, A whole team of them came at the office of the president. And Winston Brassington, on behalf of NISIL and the government of Guyana, gave them several cartoon boxes of documents. All the documents that they wanted, and in excess of what they wanted. They never read a single line. They never read a single page of those documents. Never. They never understood the project. They still went and voted it down, despite they got all of this, all the paperwork, plenty cartoon boxes, I can't remember how many, but they never read anything. They said that they believe Kaicho News. Kaicho News used to be spinning these ridiculous stories, day in, day out. One of the stories said that the falls would dry up and they wouldn't have enough water. A completely ridiculous story. Because the experts have built a dam, and the dam would have contained the water like any other hydro project. As a result, the government chartered several aircrafts and took the opposition, flew them over the falls, give them a site visit to the falls. All of them went, about 10 of them went to the various aeroplanes hired by the government. And they went there and they came back, and still they voted on the falls. They were against this man. What the man name? The contractor who got the road. I can't remember his name now. Phip Motilal. They said the contractor Phip Motilal was corrupt. Phip Motilal bid for the contract. Phip Motilal was the lowest bidder. The bidder above Phip Motilal was about 7 million US above him. And the other one was about another 7 million US. It was BK International. And it was another, I believe, a Chinese company. And the Phip Motilal came in at about 14 million US for the road. BK International came in at about 21 million. And the Chinese company came in about 24 million. I remember these figures very well. And the contract was awarded to Phip Motilal based upon the Tender Board Award. Nothing to do with government. Had we given it to BK International, it would have been the same thing. They would have then said, look, this man came in at 14 million, but you give BK International at 21 million because you are in bed with BK International. Because they used to say that we were in bed with BK International at the time. Had you given the Chinese company, they would have said, look, you left a man at 14 million and the Chinese man come in at 24 million and you give the Chinese contract. Give the Chinese the contract. So you are in a no-win situation. And of course, we all recall that the man's PR work was being done by this very Cassius, who was receiving the man money and lambasting the man politically. And I believe the lawyer was Mr. Nigel Hughes. But we passed through all those things. And that is how they killed the Amaila Falls project. Today, the Amaila Falls project is back, and hopefully this time around, we will not have any obstacle in its path, and we can realize this source of power to supplement our energy needs in the country. I also want to take this opportunity to invite you to look at the UN General Secretary's address to the UN Assembly, recently delivered at the UN General Assembly. Look at what the UN General Secretary said about climate change and about energy and about fossil fuel. He says that solar power is already the cheapest source. This is what the gentleman said. Is already the cheapest source of power in the world, and fossil fuel is something that is on its way out, that the world will not be investing in fossil fuel anymore. Those are sentiments expressed by the U.S. General Assembly. The UN, the General Secretary, of the UN. So People must pay attention to those statements and consider the implications that they have on Guyana and Guyana's future. There are serious implications. So I want to also congratulate the government and the Ministry of Education and, of course, His Excellency President Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali for extending the cash grant initiative for our school children to private schools. Recall we said that we were considering doing it, and the decision was made and the program is now being unfolded, and some 17,000 additional students are set to benefit from this program, which will equate to some $320,000 more in the pockets of our parents. So children in our private schools are now benefiting from the cash grant. So there is no sector in our education system, no student of ours is now left out of that program. And that must be something for which the government must take credit. You know, normally the PPP is always accused of neglecting Region 10. Always, no matter what we did for Region 10. I remember from 2006 to 2011, the different initiatives that President Jack Deu pursued and implemented in Linden. I remember I was asked to assist with one of the projects, which was to open a market in Linden and to draw out tenancy agreements for each of the stallholders who were going to sell in that market. And that was one of the most minuscule and smallest of the projects that the government was pursuing. We had a massive housing scheme in Amelia wards during that period. We had also wells being dug. But more importantly, we had two programs, LEAP and LEAF, which were intended to assist that community. In addition, I believe some 1,000 small loggers were given small concessions. 1,000 small loggers were given small concessions by the government, logging concessions for the first time. All of that happened during that period. Now again, and of course the call center was built, etc. Now again, you see great economic activity being directed in the Linden Region 10 area. The Ministry of a call center was commissioned, and that's at Karakara Linden, and that is likely to create some 250 jobs. Employment will begin from October. So that's 250 jobs being created in Linden just on that one project. And of course, eNetworks has begun to lay their fiber optic connection in Linden, and that again will improve the connectivity and bring greater competition to the people of Region 10. And as I'm speaking on that matter, let me speak a little about the liberalization of our telecommunications sector, because we have identified that as one of the main platforms to pursue in government, and we are doing that. Let me say quickly that the Telecommunications Act of 2015, which was passed by, which was really drafted by us, but I think passed by the previous government, they never brought the act into force. They brought one or two sections into force, but the main portion of the act, they never brought it in force. We made that commitment that we are going to pursue liberalization of this sector aggressively, and we will bring the new Telecommunications Act into force. And when we came into government, Prime Minister, who has responsibility for the telecommunications sector, addressed the nation and announced that he was issuing an order bringing the Telecommunications Act, listing the various sectors, into force. And by that, we were able to break the stranglehold that GT&T had over the sector. And we were able to begin to open the sector and operationalize the liberation of the sector to allow for other operators to enter for the first time and to compete with GT&T. And we know that competition brings cheaper prices, and competition also result in better quality of service. But we have the transition into the liberalization has not been smooth or as smooth as we have expected. And one of the operators in the sector, whom we thought was going to be a major beneficiary of the liberalization, Digicel, has filed two actions against the government, and the two actions are in court, and we have to deal with those. But it's unfortunate because, in my view, and I don't want to speak too much because the matters are in court, but these proceedings are being filed, and the effect of them is slowing down the liberalization process and preventing other operators who have made tremendous investment in the sector and are likely to make, and those who are looking on and who have an interest in entering the sector. This type of behavior, this type of litigation, and this type of posture by existing operators do not bode well for those who are likely to enter the sector. In fact, it's a discouragement. It's a discouragement of those who are likely to enter the sector. And the net effect of that is that it stymies the liberalization and stymies the freedom and the competition and the reduction of costs that we intend to bring to the sector by virtue of liberalization. But these are challenges that we have to face, and we are doing it, and we have to go to court, and we have to do what we got to do. But the government is doing everything it possibly can to ensure that the liberalization which we promise is taking place. I'm trying to get back to this. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get to the... Remember last week I said that I'll try to answer some of the comments that you are making. I'm trying to get back to my page so that I can follow what you're saying, and I can read the comments so that I can, let me see where the comments are. I'm not being able to see the comment. Let me see. Oh yes, now I'm seeing it. Yes. What is the situation with the teachers and their vaccines? Well, I am not sure what the position is, but I know that the COVID measures, it governs every sector in the country, and I did a detailed opinion, legal opinion for the government, and in that opinion, I examined many of the legal arguments that are out there that have been leveled against the government, and I attempted, by using principles of law and case law authorities, to debunk the various arguments that have been advanced against the COVID measures. First of all, let me say that the COVID measures that are being implemented in Guyana is no different from those that have been implemented in North America, in Europe, and in the rest of the Caribbean. That's the first thing. And secondly, they are in keeping with the general guidelines issued by the World Health Organization and PAHO. The second point I want to make is that these guidelines do not, in my view, contradict, contravene, or is inconsistent with any constitutional right or civil liberties or constitutional freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution or the laws of our country. So you have a freedom to assemble, you have a freedom to gather, you have a freedom to walk and to move, but the very constitutional provision that tells you that says that if there is an infectious disease, then an order can be issued under the public health order to protect public health. And that order can restrict your freedom in the public interest. And that is exactly what the COVID measure has done. And that argument, that contention that constitutional rights are being violated have been examined by our courts. Our High Court did it in 2020 and threw out an application filed. The person appealed to the full court of the High Court, and the full court upheld the High Court decision that there is no infringement of any one constitutional right when the COVID measures are being given effect to. Also, you don't have any absolute rights. Your rights are subject to the rights and freedoms of others, and there must be this coexistence and balancing of competing interests. So you have a right, yes, but other people have rights too. Your rights, and in the exercise of your rights, you have to take into account the rights of other people. And that's how civilization comes about. And the law balances these interests. And that's what the COVID guideline does. So we examined all of those, and you don't find any violation. And then there's a list of other arguments that they are advancing. For example, that someone has, what's one of the arguments? There's a trade dispute and a whole host of arguments. Some of them don't even make sense. They do not make sense. There are certain laws that provide for how disputes can be settled. But you being locked out of a building by virtue of a law, the COVID measure is a law. That's what people don't understand. It is a law. It is called subsidiary legislation. It carries the force of law. If you violate it, you go to jail. It's just like every other law. So if you violate a law and I put you out of the workplace, how does that become a dispute? That is not a dispute, you have violated the law. How can that be an industrial dispute that you want your union to come and negotiate and the government is violating your rights as a worker? If you violate the law, no union can protect you. And the COVID guideline says that if you're not vaccinated, you can't enter the building. That is the law. And if you violate that law, no union can help you. Union doesn't give you legal immunity. So these arguments are completely lopsided and they're completely foolish and are being coined and advanced by people who do not understand these principles. So they spoke about another issue that they're speaking about is that if you don't come to work and your salary is deducted, somehow it's a violation of your rights under the Termination of Employment Act. Because the Termination of Employment Act says that you can be sanctioned, but one of those sanctions can be a deduction of your wages. Now here, there is no deduction of your wages. You are not coming to work. Wages is something that is earned. So if you are not coming to work, you have not earned those wages, you will not be paid. And that the law says that. The COVID guidelines is law. If there's a conflict between the COVID guideline and any other law, the COVID guideline, because it's later in time, shall prevail. So many of the arguments that are being advanced really, they make no sense. They make no sense and they have no basis in law. So let me quickly try to address some of the questions that you're asking me. So please, I'm reading what you're saying. So let me hear what you want me to answer. No work, no pay. That's correct. No work, no pay. Nobody's rights are being violated there. You have not worked. I don't know what percentage of the the teachers are not vaccinated. Somebody's asking when the people in Williamsburg will get their titles. I am not sure, but I can follow up that with Ministry of Housing. There is a question keep repeating there. What happens to the persons who took Sputnik and want to travel to the United States? Well, I suppose you will have to either get another vaccine accepted by the United States. I don't know on what basis the United States is not recognizing Sputnik. Sputnik is recognized by several countries. The country that has produced Sputnik, Russia, based upon the information available, and I don't pretend to know everything, but based upon the information available, I think Russia is doing better than the United States, and therefore Sputnik seems to be faring better than other vaccines. So I don't know on what basis the United States is not recognizing Sputnik, but the persons who would like to travel to the US, I suppose, will have to, if vaccination is mandatory to enter the US, will have to take a vaccine that the US recognizes. Or if vaccination is not mandatory, well, then you produce your COVID test, and that will qualify you to travel. It's as simple as that. I see people are still saying that it is their body and their choice. Well, that is true. It's your body and your choice. But you have no right. You have no right to infect people and to make your body become like a weapon. You know, persons have been charged who have HIV and who have AIDS, and they go and they have sexual intercourse with persons, they have been charged with attempted murder. Because if you have those diseases and you know that they are transmittable, and you go and you have sex with persons, you can be charged for serious offenses, and persons have been charged. So yes, it's your body and it's your choice. But when your body becomes toxic, when your body becomes threatening to others, then your body becomes a problem in a society governed by law and order. And your body can attract criminal sanctions. And the world is replete with examples where persons who have had communicable diseases and have refused to quarantine themselves or quarantine themselves and to segregate and separate themselves, but on the other hand, have exposed others to infection, those persons have been charged and convicted. And there are reported cases across the globe in many legal systems, including America's legal system and the United Kingdom legal system. So this argument that is being bandied about, that it's your body and you can do what you wish, is not an intelligent one. It's not an intelligent one. And soon, and you mark my words, you will see that if this thing does not stop and there is no reprieve, societies, jurisdictions will start to look at instituting criminal charges against those who are refusing to take the vaccines. You will see we may very well get there. I am not saying that we are there. I am not advocating for that to happen, but I am simply saying that that is a direction in which circumstances may force governments to turn in the very near future if this pandemic continues to wreak the type of havoc that it is wreaking across the globe. This is where I have to wrap up and say goodbye. The operator is indicating to me that we have come to program time. I want to thank you very much for joining me and staying with me over the past 55 minutes to an hour. I think that we have discussed several important topics, and I thank you very much for your patience and for engaging me. We are still working on this method of reading the comments and responding to you so that the program becomes more interactive and I can, where possible, answer some of your queries, your concerns, and your questions. Thank you very much once again for being part of this program, and I want to wish you all the best for the coming week, and I want to again appeal to you and to all of you who are listening and watching, please ensure that you take the vaccine and that you comply with the COVID guidelines so that you can stay safe, and I can speak to you again next Tuesday. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening and of course the rest of the week. Thank you.